You. Welcome, friends. So good to see all of you on this occasion of Memorial Day in Bruce, the place where our spiritual father, I'm becoming emotional talking about him, but he wanted to build a house for his devotees. This is a spiritual house for us. He wanted to build a dera. Dera means house. And it is a spiritual house, maybe the first house, for people who follow spirituality. Because their whole life is dedicated to their master and teaching of their master. I was thinking about Memorial Day, what it means. We celebrate Memorial Day to honor the soldiers, fallen soldiers, people who have dedicated their life in the service of the country and their citizens. So they're serving in war, they're fighting enemies to protect us from our enemies, from the trouble that they can see in the future. And they dedicate their life, and they sometimes get killed, and we honor them. And we honor people who serve in the military, because we understand what kind of dedication it requires for people to give up their life and give up their loved ones. A lot of masters actually show in similar way, and I remember one master, he wanted to see who are true disciples. And I forget which master was this. This was one of the Sikh masters. And so a lot of people wanted to become his disciple. And he wanted to find out who are the true disciples. It's very hard to, find out who are made of the real stuff, who are truly dedicated to being on the spiritual path, who can dedicate everything. It's like being soldiers, that you are willing to give up your life to be on this path or follow particular teaching. That's okay. And so what he did was, he had people, so he called disciples one by one into this room. And so disciples one at a time would go into this room. And there was a water sort of running out of this room. And as people went in, what seemed like a red blood come out of this room from this path. And the other disciples saw that, okay, whoever goes in, they probably have to, kill themselves or, do something so that, the blood comes out. And as they were seeing it, so a lot of people got scared. This is not the path I want to follow if I have to give my life. And so this master used this trick to figure out who are the true satsangis, who are truly willing to give their life. So they are just like soldiers on spiritual path, willing to commit to their master. Doesn't matter what happens to their life. There are so many other examples. There was another master who wanted to see if my disciples would follow whatever instruction I give them. Because they, realized masters know what they're doing. But from our vantage point, who we cannot differentiate anything, true from, untrue things. And so he asked, I think some of you might be familiar with this story. So he asked his disciple to build a platform for him. And so there's a lot of groups, people started building their platform. And so they asked Master, what kind of platform do you want? And he said, go ahead and build a platform that you think is right. So these disciples went on building platform. And Master would look at them. He would say, no, I don't like it, start over. And then this went on going for a long time, days. And this master was getting really old. And so his disciple thought that, okay, this master has really gone crazy. He doesn't like any of the platforms. We built such beautiful podium or platform. It didn't work for master. So what has gone wrong with him? Probably he's losing his mind as he's getting old. I hope people are able to hear me. So, so slowly people started leaving him, thinking that, okay, this guy has really gone mad, So probably, they built this platform for days, And so slowly the crowd started disappearing over time. And there was just one man left. And he kept on making, he would not leave. So master would ask him to change. Okay, I don't like this platform, make another one. He would just obediently follow him. And he went on going like that. At the end, master was pleased. And he said, he told him that it is not about platform, I wanted to test, how good you are in terms of following instruction. Do you really believe what your master is saying? So we are in this position. Sometimes we don't know, how much to commit to our master. I had the same issues, because I was living in California. Whenever he would have satsang, not every time I could come here. There were legitimate reasons. I had job, which I was committed to, and at the same time, it was hard, being in most people can relate to this. We have our job, businesses, whatever else. We need to feed ourselves. It is difficult to walk on this spiritual path as well as do our normal duty. So masters understand that because they also are in our situation. They have been through our situation. They are mortal beings just like us. It just happens that because of their master's grace, things have been opened for them. They have realized, they have gone to another level of realization from where they can see what is happening in our heart, and they understand the nature of creation. So they can relate with us. And so when we want to do something, they can look into our heart and see with what intention we are doing something. Are we committed to him? It is not about platform. It is not about literally giving your physical life. I don't think masters would want us to give up our life in that way. It is our love and devotion to him, following his instruction truly. So it's been 1.5 years since master passed away. And the best we can do is honor the life that he led. He spent, I see 100% of his life, more than 100% of his life, giving great masters teachings, spreading those teachings to West and all over the world. Actually, he traveled in so many places. And he used to say that, I don't know of anybody who has traveled more than me going around the world. And I can believe that, even probably politicians also don't travel as much. Heads of state, yeah, probably they travel, but not as much, not in that unselfish way, not with so much dedication. I asked him once when he came to our house that I knew that since morning he has been busy. He had given a talk around probably 11 o'clock, 10, 11 o'clock. Then he went off for lunch with some of us. And this was in California. And so he talked to a lot of people. And on the way back, when he came to our house, he was talking constantly in the car. And we were also talking to him, keeping him busy with whatever was going on in our life and showing him the place. Came to our house. He talked for most of the time. And as he was talking, I was getting exhausted. It's, I think most of you can relate to this, that while he would be giving talk, people would doze off because it's extremely hard to keep up with his energy. It had happened with me. It happened to me while I was the only sort of audience, when he was talking to me, although my family members were there, but I could feel that how exhausting it could be. And I was thinking that, how is it that this man, 90-plus-year-old, is able to engage with this level of interaction and constant engagement? There wasn't a moment where he was, not paying attention, distracted, or looking at his phone, or, So I asked him at the end of the day, how is it that you can keep up with so much, happening around you, pay attention, and still go around? And he said, it's because of my master. He's giving me all the energy. Because of that, I'm able to do it. If it wasn't him, I would not be able to do it. And several times he had said that, I know this person, Ishwapuri, he's not capable of anything, And it really surprised me that, okay, this person doesn't have a single bit of ego, right? I remember once reading a letter when he wanted to build this place, Dera, and I think it was in 2013. And he, as he was wishing that a dera would be built for his master, he was asking for volunteers, and he sort of dedicated that. He wanted to dedicate that place for his master, and something overcame me, that okay, here is a man, a huge bureaucrat in India, holding several high government positions. He completely gave up that life. He came over here in the United States, had a difficult life in the beginning. Those who have known him closely about his personal life, it was a lot of ups and downs. From outside it feels like he's a master, everybody is willing to serve him, but spiritual life is different from the personal life they live. The personal life is truly personal for them. They have their own livelihood, they struggle just like anybody, they have illness, and they share those things with the people who are close to them. And it amazed me that here is a true disciple of great master Sawan Singh Ji, and he's also suffering. He doesn't need to suffer, and if he has some wish, we would probably dedicate our life to fulfilling his dreams. So somehow, on reading this letter of him, that okay, he wanted to build a dera for his master, I thought that okay, a desire kind of arose in me that okay, I somehow wanted to be involved with this, not knowing what was going to happen in future, of course. And here it is, after several years, he somehow pulled me close to him. And I remember in 2019 coming here, doing seva. I think some of you, who are constantly here, knows, what kind of weather conditions we ended up working in. And I know, looking at a lot of you, you have been here working, toiling, endlessly. I cannot thank you enough. And who am I to actually thank you? It's Ishwar work, So he's looking at all of us, and we are hoping that this work will commence soon, in few months. We are working with an architect, and so we have. You might have seen the new plans, So we have a new data site where we have laid out all the plans. So hopefully tomorrow probably we'll get a chance to talk about that. We'll show you the website and walk through the different layouts we have, what kind of rooms we have. So I'm from my point of view, I'm committing myself to making sure that Great Master's dream and my Master Ishwarji's dream is fulfilled here. And I know a lot of you are committed. You have come from far places. You have left your place and bought a house or property here, and you have settled in here, and you stay here a few months, 6 months, 8 months of the year. It's the amount of commitment that I see is just, it's humbling to see that, I thought that it was just me and few people who were committed to his work, but I see so many amongst us who are so dedicated to seeing that his vision, his dream is eventually fulfilled here, and we are going to make sure that it happens. But we cannot forget at the same time, it is not about the building we are constructing. Building is just made of material things, and building is going to be here for a short time, and then it will go away. We'll probably have newer buildings. So it is not about a building. It is not even about a person, because if you see masters, they don't live for, forever. All masters have passed away. They live a life like a normal person. They have earning, they have disease, they grow old. They also have their own master, right? And eventually they pass away. But what they try to teach is eternal truth. They always try to guide us toward that truth that never dies. Everything else around us is constantly changing. There is not a single thing that you can point to, that is ever static, that is unchangeable. If you look at the life, that life itself changes, right? As a child, we grow into adulthood, we get married, we have kids, eventually, we grow old and die. Plants do the same thing. Everything, if you look at the solar system, it is constantly changing. Different heavenly bodies are going around, other heavenly bodies. They have sun or other star systems around which it's going. Things are always in motion, not only physical things, but our things happening inside us, that are non-physical in nature. Emotions are always going up and down. There's a seesaw going on. We are never at peace. We are never in one state. And somehow, because the life, the way it leads us through different states, different conditions, we are trying to, we are in subtle ways seeking this constantness in our life, stability in our life. Nobody seems to be happy with wherever they are. A poor is not happy, because they are poor, they don't have enough things to eat or, clothes to wear. And if you look at on the other extreme, rich people, they seem to be somewhat more unhappy, because you get to hear about them. So maybe it, it reverberates in our mind. If you look at personalities in Hollywood or billionaires, there seem to be there. I watch Twitter, and I see a lot of rants from, billionaires of like Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, and those people. I think seems like they are at never-ending quest of maybe finding more money, or for Hollywood personalities, they have a lot going on in their life. They are they want more attention, and there is an aspect of us, even when we have everything, somehow there is a unsettled part of us that seems to be finding something, and we are really fortunate that we have been able to somehow, because of the conditions we have been raised in, somehow it led us down this path where we were able to come to know about this master, Ishwarji, and other masters. A lot of other people have come from the same path, path of Surat Sab Yoga and path of light and sound, but yet found this master. And so we are in constant search for this eternal stability, and what master used to call eternal home or Sachkhand, where last time I said there's a word for it called Satchidananda, Sat, Chit and Anand. This is like perfect state where you're in eternal bliss and you have full knowledge and for eternity. So it's a timeless state. So we seem to be, as we experience this life and instabilities, ups and downs of this life, in our heart we are seeking for this stability. We are trying to gravitate towards this place that is full of solace, full of calmness, maybe full of bliss. And these masters have come amongst us. Maybe we had that seeking that things around us are never giving enough satisfaction. You can look at things that gave you happiness will also give you unhappiness. This seems to be this life. When we get married, we are in love with a person, and then we keep on fighting throughout our life, as we live the life. I do not know of any person who has been satisfied with their married life completely, right? So it is so true. Even with a child, I have a young child. I know, when he was small, he was such a cute baby. As he grew, happiness also grew. But at some point, it seems like the happiness maturity was hit, and after that, there was more fighting with him. Now he's, on his way to becoming an adult boy. He can hurt you like nothing else can hurt you. So it's strange, things that we think should give us happiness, sometimes turn a corner and then start giving us unhappiness. So there's, and same thing with sometimes unhappiness also. You feel that, okay, because of this unhappiness, I'm able to discover other part of my life. Sometimes it is strange that this whole experience that we have is made of opposites, plus and minus, happiness, unhappiness. I was just talking to a friend a couple of days back, and he was relating some story about his daughter who has brain tumors, and he has had several surgeries done on her, and still she's not well. And then there was another friend of mine who was relating his condition about having MS, multiple sclerosis. And they were relating these conditions, sharing these things with me. And I was thinking, when you don't have these, when you are in perfect health, you don't know what it means to be diseased, or when you have certain conditions with you. When you have certain uncomfort level, then you understand the role of the opposite nature, like having a perfect health. When you have perfect health, you don't appreciate the health that you have been given. And I know, I used to be completely well, and then I had some injury in my foot, and because of which I can't run properly. So every time I try to run, it reminds me that how important it is to be, well, without any injury. And that's when the appreciation of that, the other side, kind of grows. With Ishoji, when he was alive, I took it granted that he will live forever, because I'm sure there were opportunities I could have taken advantage of to come and see him in monthly meetings. I could have created more opportunities, but after when he's gone, that's when I realized I wish, I had taken a little bit of more chance. Maybe it may not have worked out. So only in contrast you are able to appreciate the opposite side. And fortunate for us, we are on this path because a part of us maybe missed that aspect that, that we would not have if we had everything perfect going in our life. There are so many billions of people on this planet, right? How many of them are seekers? Even when they meet Master, they listen to lecture, they come and attend different events. But I think as a true seeker, you have to really be dedicating your life like the soldiers into his teaching. And we have to be, because he's amongst us, just to show us that path. And because we were seeker, he's showing us light, illuminating that path that we need to take to find that happiness that is eternal in nature. So I think the best we could do is honor the life he lived by remembering his teaching, remembering how he dedicated his life to carrying on his Master's message. He came over here, he led a normal life, he spent early part of life here meeting so many people. I know there are so many disciples who have known him for 30, 40 years. I really feel jealous, that I wish it was me, who had met him long time back, even though I met him but yet, I met him in 2014. And I realized the gravity of, really knowing him much later in life, I say to others that I'm just like a rock, you can't get any emotion out of it, So I used to be very mechanical, having computer science background, engineering background, I used to rely on my mental powers, what I thought was my mental powers. Mm-hmm. And I had a lot of ego based on that, because I could decide what my life is going to be like. And it was completely certain. As I matured, I realized that, okay, how powerless I was, so, and I started seeing things in a different way that, the decisions that I, make not necessarily always turns out in the way I want them to turn out. And there's a lot other factors going on, which is beyond my control. That seems to be dictating the outcome. And after meeting him, my conviction grew that, probably behind a lot of results, positive or negative, it was him, controlling from the behind, controlling all the strings. And I started appreciating it as I started, my rock, started melting, and I must say, people around me, my wife, my kid, meeting a lot of satsangis, a lot of people inspired me. I saw the amount of dedication they have, especially people here who have transformed their life, dedicated their life to coming here and seeing to it that his dream is fulfilled. So I'm just one of you, who has been given some task by him, and he never asked me whether you wanted to do this. He just, okay, you got to do this, and okay, and who can say no to him? I just went along. Okay, he knows what he's doing. And by then, I had realized not fighting him. Because at times I tried to fight him, and then and I was promptly rebuked. So I realized that, okay, when to say, when to fight him, when to not. So I think best we should do is remember him, because that is why he's amongst us. He is here to do great master's work. He was here to do great master's work. Now it is his work. There's no difference between him and great master. If he is a perfect living master, and by definition, perfect living master is one with the creator, one with the totality of consciousness. So there cannot be two of them. There cannot be a great master as a single person, single, differentiated soul who is yet merged with the totality of consciousness. That is going to be a contradiction. So all masters, all perfect living masters, they are just the embodiment of that true power, right? They come amongst us in flesh so that we can see them, we can fall in love with them, we can hear their message. Without seeing a person, how can you have a trust in somebody? You need somebody, because we are not going to listen to animals for their advice. We are not going to listen to plants for their advice, and worse, we are not going to listen to a rock for advice, right? So they have to come in a form that for whatever reason becomes appealing to us. Sometimes because they can talk well, or sometimes they look well, or the how their eyes lit up while talking, or sometimes you see the conviction in them, the power of their words, even though they seem to be talking the same thing that is in the literature, that is in the holy books, but when you hear it directly, it resonates in a different way. And sometimes you don't even need to understand what they're saying. You just need to be in company of their sangha, and that itself seems to transform people. There used to be so many people coming to his satsang who used to fall asleep, including myself, because if I come, let's say take a red-eye flight from California, then in the morning time or afternoon, I would be very sleepy after eating, sumptuous meal. So it used to be difficult. So, and I could relate with a lot of other people, who used to have this really tasty meal, and after that they used to, it could be a simple pizza, or a lot of coffee. Coffee could also, coffee could put me to sleep. And so, so it is something about them that that cannot be described with just plain word, because rationally it does not make sense. Why is it that so many people used to come and attend? And I know his wife, Ishuji himself, used to say that his wife would ask people, what was the lecture about? How did you like the lecture? What was said? And they would, they would try to explain, and everybody would have a different, explanation, as if they completely attended a different satsang. So, it was somewhat, he had that gravity where people would just go and listen to whatever came out of his mouth, and yet be so happy, and probably the naps would be wonderful, when he's talking, and then you are not able to hold on to the energy that is being permeated in the room. And so it was a strange experience for different people, as I talked to more and more satsangis, I realized that he had different people had completely different experience. A lot of people became very emotional, and so I used to try to relate with what they are going through while Ishuji was alive, and I could not, because I was solid as a rock, and I used to wonder, what is it that people are so moved by him, just presence of him. As he walked into the room, people would start crying loudly, right? And people who saw him for the first time, that's the kind of reaction people would have. And it really surprised me. I'd never met anyone that could evoke this kind of reaction from people. And in time, I became sort of one of them, in my own solitary ways, I was just telling somebody that, I in my sort of previous life, I used to hide myself, I think a lot of people over here can attest to that. As I used to come here for seva, that I'll just be doing my stuff and I'll get out. Not talk. I'll I'll try not to talk to anyone. As much as possible. It was quite challenging for me. Yet I saw a lot of different emotions from people, and realized, I used to wonder. I used to listen to his lectures on and on, as I used to drive to my office. I'm sure it's true for all of you. Some of you listen on to his lectures on a daily basis. So, as I after initiation, as I started listening to him more and more, I started wondering. He talks about love and devotion. What is this love? He talks about. I know a lot of people start sobbing as soon as they see him, and including my family members, So, and I could never relate to it, So I used to wonder what is it, and would sort of internally have conversation with him, like, what is this love you talk about? How come I don't experience it? People experience it. Is it some made up stuff? Because I can't connect to it. But then things sort of turned around in 2019, and as if the floodgates opened, and I used to come here for Miti Seva often, as often as I could. But then I could see changes in myself. The rock was beginning to sort of wither away with the force of water, and my seva here, in my mind became so memorable to me. This. So I used to tell my wife that, the ride from Minneapolis to here, to Dera, was so beautiful, and especially when I had a meeting with him, going back was so memorable. I used to get so much charged with emotions and feeling of love, feeling of being on this path, and having this unique opportunity of this master, this particular man being our master, my master, and the whole gravity of him being a master, and sort of hearing about him, different coincidences that people encounter in their life, and including the changes that were happening in my life, started to come together. And I see that, okay, this man, is just a physical man like anybody else, very handsome looking, eloquent, and the aspect about him, like his dedication to his master, that started hitting me so hard, that he gave up pretty much his whole life, even though he was going through a lot of difficulties. He would never compromise on his promises to his master of spreading his word, his teachings to the West. And I think I would take that as the ultimate message, that masters come here, live amongst us, have friendship, and they will pass away in time. They never live forever. But their message should live here forever, as long as there are seekers. And we should remain true to their teachings, and we should be just like soldiers, who give their life for their country. And Ishuji used to talk about doing seva, right? So this is the seva that we can do for him in terms of body, like the seva that is being done here today and this weekend, and with mind during meditation, So I think the meditation, in terms of the order of the different sevas, he gave a lot of importance to doing a seva with mind. I know on his birthday, a lot of people used to write to him, wishing him a happy birthday and wanted to give him gifts. And he would only ask that we give him 5 minutes of our meditation time and thank him for that. And that was the gift he was willing to accept. And so I think we got to remember those messages, because if we just hear lectures, listen to satsangs, it's like reading a description of a sweet, or cake, how cake is made, But you really want to taste the cake, right? Don't you want to experience the sweetness of this cake, the texture of this shape, and so many varieties, So if this master is telling you showing you the path, that, okay, you don't need to go anywhere outside. You don't need to go to any building. You don't need to, the building doesn't need to, have a particular name. just by calling a building Sachkhand, it is not a Sachkhand. It's just a place for people to gather and talk about the master, have satsang. But the true seva would be to follow his teaching. Those are eternal, and that will take you to this ultimate truth, that will make you realize that truth. So meditate, and that will be your seva with your mind, because all the sevas, of meditation, we are starting with the physical plane, right? Because this is the only reality we experience as a physical being, as a human being in this life. And if we, try to imagine if you did not have the senses that we have, the sight that we have, the hearing that we have, tactile senses we have, we would not be experiencing ourselves as human beings made of this material, right? So probably we would not be, if we did not have these senses, we would not be experiencing anything. Without sense, we don't have any existence, sort of, right? At least we won't be able to experience this photograph, flower, and so on. So because we have this physical body, and this is the only reality we know of, we have to start with this physical body, and using this body, we do our seva, we sit in meditation, follow the art of meditation that he talked about, which was basically taking our experience, we are disconnecting with the experience that we are having, right? We are having this experience because we have physical senses built in us, and we have eyes, nose, ears, all the senses that are built into us in our body, that leads us to experience this world. Without these senses, we would not be experiencing this world. It could be a completely different world. So what masters have told us that, okay, we are not this body. Although we, in our day-to-day experience, we don't know anybody else, that is living in this physical compartment that we have, right? It's just, we know ourselves as this body. We don't think of ourselves as a soul residing in this body. So masters have told us that this shell is just an outer garment for us. This body that we have is just a shell, which is like a garment, and like a garment, that becomes after usage, it becomes dirty, it becomes wrinkled, it becomes torn apart. Same thing will happen to our body, and we'll have to leave this body. That doesn't end our experience. We live on, and we can only find that, maybe after we die. But after we die, maybe we may not have the control that we have right now. How we can, think and decide. We seem to have this free will, where we decided to come to this Miti Seva event, right? We planned our event, we planned our journey. So as a human being, we have this capacity to be able to plan things, make things happen in deliberate way. We pass judgment as to what is wrong, what is right, and act accordingly. But when we die, we may not have this way of acting. Who knows? Only after dying, you may realize. But these masters who have this complete awareness, they tell us that don't wait till you die. That will be too late. Maybe the next life will already be, written up for you. When you die, you may be looking forward to your next life. But you have already led a life, that you did not take advantage of. So what they tell us is, take advantage of the life that you have been given. So don't just look at the instruction of making cake or pudding, or going to Hawaii. Actually make a trip to Hawaii, and go see the place, experience that. So you do seva with your mind. So meditation, thinking about your master, doing your own satsang, right, in meditation, talk to him. And you can do seva with your body, like we are doing today here. And then you can do seva with money. He talked about money seva as well. But in the order that he talked about, the mind seva is the best, right? That has the most weight. And then body seva. And then writing checks or donations. And depending on where people are, right? Even a single dollar donated by satsangis carried a lot of weight as somebody maybe sending $1 million check, because a person who can write $1 million check probably has a lot of money, so for him, that is not much. So I think it's the intention with which you do your seva that carries a lot of weight. So I think the best we can do is dedicate our life in this wonderful day of Memorial Day, when we honor all the soldiers, remember him, and so we should remember our master, and we should become a soldier on this spiritual path and dedicate our life to the master, and who will see to it that the initiation that he gave us, the promise that he gave us, that he will be with us till we become one with him, till we reach Sachkhand and be one with him, merge into him. Till that is realized, he will be with us. So after our life, when we die, he has promised that he's going to be there to receive us. So we should take advantage of the time that we have. I was recently, heard this story in India. A small little girl, maybe 4 or 5 year old. This is in a state of Gujarat, and she started talking in English. She wants to talk to her parents in English, and this is a Gujarati village where people don't speak in English. So you see TV programs, sometimes when you change channel, you can see it in English. So this little girl, she wants to talk in English, addresses her mother and father in English, using English words, mom and dad, and she doesn't like listening to any kids programming in the native Gujarati language, but when English programs come, she becomes very attentive and starts listening to what is being said, because she can understand and she can speak as well. So and she sort of remembers her life in United States. She said that she was in California, in desert somewhere, and she was trying to relate to animal like llama, but there are no llamas in California, so it was probably a camel or something like that. This was pretty fascinating to hear her story. There was a news crewman interviewing this young girl. So a lot of us probably, some of you probably have memories of past life. Somebody was telling me that as soon as she tried Indian food, wow, she was like wowed by it, the taste of it, and she thought that probably she was Indian in her past life. So some of you Americans here probably might have that experience, remember your past life. So yes, as Master used to say through his own, family's experience as well, that people have experienced reincarnation. And so, yes, I think if you have been initiated by Master, maybe if you have to go through another life, he will give you another life where you'll reincarnate into a better life that is more suitable for doing seva for him, especially seva with the mind, right? And so, but while we have this life given to him, we should try to take advantage of the life we have. I know it is quite difficult, but fortunately, because of COVID, I think a lot of us were kind of kept in our houses for a long time. We did not get a chance to travel much, so we should try as much as possible to take advantage of those situations. Things are beginning to open up, but things are always constantly changing. So those changes are going to always happen. You like it or not. So I think it's better that we start liking it, and start accepting these changes. It makes our life easier, and and Master used to say, "Go with the flow," right? So anyway, you can't control things or environment around you. Best is to sort of surrender to him and take it as his will, and remember him. And so these special circumstances also, remind us of him. That if you're going through some pain, then you have a chance to kind of give a credit to him that, okay, you have just given me enough pain to realize, not given me too much pain. It could have been so much worse. It's like when somebody a soldier wants to go for a war, he cannot think of anything but defeating his enemies. So it's a single-minded perspective. To some degree, we need to also become a spiritual soldier like him and constantly remember him, remember his teaching. And so I'm so glad to see all of you. So many of you could be here, so I wanted to also take opportunity to be here. And because pretty soon we are going to start working on the meeting hall construction. And I'm hoping that this year we'll be able to start, but we'll see. This is end of May, and probably it'll take another few months before we can actually start. We are hoping that in a month or so we'll sign a construction contract with a company, and in phase 1 we'll do enough work, and so we'll have foundation done and some structure done. But we'll see, because of the timings, we have already lost a lot of time. We are in May, and so whatever structure we come up with, that should not be that should remain safe, even in winter. But if we feel that it may be counterproductive by having just partially constructed building, then we may push it off to next spring, and maybe start early next year and finish up so that whatever we construct won't be of any danger because of snow. So we'll try to get to that next year. But I want to be a soldier and remain dedicated to his work. And I hope to see all of you here often, because I'm also planning to come here more and more often as things take shape. And so it will be wonderful to see and meet so many of you again and again, so that we can share notes, talk about a lot of things, catch up. With that, I would like to conclude the meeting. Thank you so much.